Greetings. Welcome to today's session on improving parish leadership teams. My name is Joe Kormos, and I'll be your host for this video as well as when we get together to answer questions and work through some workshop items. I can't see you, of course, and I do know that based on the attendance at past OCLI events, I can assume that you are have some leadership experience in your own right, in your own walks of life, have applied some of that in your parish, and that we all together share a desire to see the Orthodox faith grow in this country. So let's get started, shall we? There are a variety of situations where teams and teamwork come to the fore within parish life. You might have a liturgical team, you might have educational teams, you might have charitable outreach, various kinds of ministry teams, special projects, evangelization groups. Certainly it would be hoped that one of the best performing teams would be the choir. Hopefully they can stay together and do things in concert, so to speak. And of course we can't forget the ever-present or seemingly often ever-present festival team. Today, however, we're going to focus primarily on the Parish Council. Now you might say, well, why do that? I think there's to some and many it might be obvious. The Parish Council is the primary parish team, I would say. It is the parish leadership body, or should be the guiding coalition for change. It is the place where leadership should come to the fore, and maybe unfortunately where many leadership opportunities are missed. It's also, in some parishes, the only team. Likewise, it represents situations that will be seen in other teams, and so it's a relatively general place that we can focus, casting vision, developing initiatives, understanding the limitations of resources, inspiring participation. These are shared by almost every parish team. The Parish Council also is a place where we can find many improvement opportunities. Now, in speaking of those improvement opportunities, I had a nice long list, but I thought that it was really pretty much covered by what I heard from a lady at a conference once. And I sat down and talked to her, and she had recently been elected to the Parish Council. And she said, I got on the Parish Council because I saw needs. I saw challenges facing our parish. I wanted to make a difference, she said, and I wanted to help the parish become more Christ-centered. And then once I got on there, I was frustrated because all they wanted to do is talk about fixing the steps. That summarizes some, not all, but some of the opportunities for improvement on parish councils and parish leadership teams. So as we go through this, we'll talk about better parish councils. In general, we're talking about moving it, I think, from being the parish fire department, reacting to things, to becoming a true leadership body, to moving beyond bills, budgets, and buildings, to discover possibilities and to discern priorities. So let's talk about a few tactics and tools of improving leadership teams. We can learn, first of all, from the animal kingdom, the lessons of geese. These are not bad lessons right here for us. Geese, we come to find, will fly in formation, not just to look pretty, but to save energy. So there is something important about structure. They encourage the leader, and their way of doing that is honking. We applaud or do other things, but they encourage their leaders, and they'll change the leader based on the situation or when the leader needs a break or gets tired. So those are a few things I could tell you right now, right out of the gate, about some tools and tactics for parish teams and particularly parish leadership teams. I've decided to structure this into 10 items. Now I can see a few of you out there going, 10 items, surely he's not going to talk about 10 things in a short video. No, I'm not. But there are 10 here. Were we to have more time together, we probably would not have structured this exactly like this. But these are some important topics that come up when we go through the entire module on parish leadership teams. I'm going to talk to you about deciding to improve, understanding the role of the parish council, and building a parish council covenant. We'll talk about those in some level of detail. What we're not going to cover is some of the other items on the list here: group dynamics, establishing appropriate administrative practices, which is extremely important, particularly for parish councils, encouraging the best people to serve. That works for not only for parish councils, but any parish team. Committing to effective meetings. We will talk just a bit more about that in detail than on some of these other topics. A semi-annual parish health vibrancy inventory. That's a purely parish council topic. I think it's an important one. We won't have time to cover it today. Communicating with the parish and grading your paper. So let's move on and get down into a few of these at least, so as not to make our video session too long. Well, first of all, tip number one is to decide to improve. Now, this basically goes part and parcel with fostering a sense of excellence, and it never ceases to amaze me how low the standards we can allow in so many of our parishes. We simply act as if just getting by, doing the minimum, is good enough. No, it really is not. As C.S. Lewis said, the greatest danger is the illusion that all is well. And in so many of our parishes, and in the behaviors of so many parish councils, it isn't necessarily all being well. So I suggest that you start out any effort to improve your parish council with asking the question of others. It may well be that you are strongly interested and motivated to see the parish council do a better job, however that be defined. But you may be alone, or you may not be have the same level of commitment from others. I point you to the parable of the paralytic at the pool at Bethesda. He waits to be helped into the pool, and Jesus comes along and asks what seems like an odd question. Do you want to be made well? And this same question then could be asked of others on our parish council. Do you really want to be made well? Because if they don't, then we need to tailor our own personal expectations to how far we can get on all this. And in our list of 10 tactics and tips, number 10 was grade your paper, and that really also is part of number 1. It's important then that you sit down as a group and say, what are we good at? What are we not so good at? What do we have opportunities as a body, as a team, to improve? How does the parish see us? What is our understanding of the key issues facing the parish? Do we have some sort of consensus on all of that? Now, in my experience, parish councils trip in a variety of ways. And this may not apply, this list may not be quite applicable to you, but I'm pretty sure that a few of these apply. First of all, we have often had on parish councils a very secular pull. We do things based on experiences of being on committees, teams, and boards in the secular world. Some of that applies, some of it doesn't. We probably in many parish councils have inherited a lot of bad practices. Many parish councils are too large. From a size standpoint, we probably spend too much time also thinking about the very short term and as opposed to the longer focal length item. We may well be known within the parish as the place where ideas go to die. We may not follow through on the things we do. And here in the right-hand column of the slide, responsibility, authority, governance, and ministry and scope, that's what we're actually going to talk about next. it also may well be because of all of those things that we have trouble attracting new blood and new people to the team. So, I simply ask of you, assuming many of you have been on the parish council before, how did you learn? How did you learn how to do this, how to be on the parish council? Who trained you? Chances are it was through the school of hard knocks and observing those who went before you. Not totally bad, but it may not necessarily be the right way. So first of all, find the level of appetite that people have within your parish council for getting better. And then finally, I guess I would say ask this question, not so much what are you willing to do, but what are you unwilling to do? You'll get some interesting answers by doing that. People say, well, I would put this much time toward that, but I wouldn't be willing to do anything more than that. It's useful to get some boundaries on what you're trying to achieve with respect to improving your parish council. So item number 2 that we're going to talk about is understand, and this is probably, I think, the most important thing we'll share in this brief video today, is to understand what the role is of the parish council in the parish. And I point that out. Here's a good quote, I think, from a very good book called Governance and Ministry. A church council without a clear sense of its specific role cannot resist the gravitational pull that can drag a community of spiritual leaders back to behaving like a business board. So I think that's a good summary of why we need to understand clearly our role within the parish. Now, before we get into the details of the role, I will point out that one size does not necessarily fit all. In the book, The Small Church is Different, the author points out that in a small church, the parish council often functions as a committee of the whole. They focus on details and not policy. While in the previous book I quoted, Governance and Ministry, the author there points out that as a parish grows, they need a council that can rise above the day-to-day and think about the bigger picture, not just annually, but all or at least most of the time. Now, those are 2 examples and talk a little bit about roles. They're from the Protestant world. I think there's a lot we can learn from them. But what about from our own polity, so to speak? We don't have time to go into all the details behind this, but 3, I think, important points that are basics of the Orthodox faith and the way we should view our parishes and the way we should view leadership within the parish are those shown on this particular slide here, Orthodox Basics. First of all, I think we all know that the bishop is the source of authority within the parish. He delegates that authority in most of the time to the priest, who is then the head of the parish. He's the head of the parish council and head of every ministry within the parish. There is nothing that he is not to be the leader of. Now, likewise, there are 2 other points, though, that I think are significant when we consider parish councils. And that is the concept that we do things together in terms of being spiritual and material together, just as is shown in this hierarchical liturgy in the photograph. There are spiritual things that will go on, and there are material things that go on in the liturgy. And the liturgy is really kind of the outline, the fundamental teaching point about leadership in the parish. And so everything we do within the parish council needs to comprehend both the spiritual and the material. And likewise, everyone in the parish needs one another. The clergy need the laity need the clergy. We're all the people of God, the laos. And so we have to find a way to collaborate effectively within these 3, I'll call them sort of principles. So let's spend a moment or 2 talking about what really is the parish council. And when I say define the parish council, its job or role, what are the things for which it's responsible, and then how do those responsibilities play out in terms of the things you actually do and what's the scope and structure, etc. Well, if I ask most, I think, parishes and parish councils to create a definition, and I've done this in some workshops, of what the parish council is about, it comes out often looking something like this. The parish council is an advisory body that assists the priest and stands in the stead of the parish as a whole to effectively manage parish expenditures, budgets, and buildings. Bills, budgets, and buildings. In many instances, that can work. That's fine. If that's the role that you're looking to achieve, and that may well be the role that is defined in your bylaws, in your jurisdictional statute, in your diocesan bylaws. However, I suggest that there may be a slightly better way to look at it, and I'll ask you to consider this. Might it be better to think of the parish council as a shared leadership body, co-responsible under the rector's guidance for the health and vibrancy of the parish? So not just bills, budgets, and buildings. Working together, they are stewards of the parish's ability to fulfill its total mission. Their job is to bring the parish into the future, into a brighter future. So in addition to overseeing God-given resources, the council must discern priorities, drive change, enliven vital parish ministries. So this term, shared co-responsibility, if we were together, I think we could have a pretty good and interesting discussion about it. I will say this. It requires significant maturity, particularly if you have been used to a much more narrow and limited purview for a parish council. I think it's important that it be considered because it can help to build what Protestants, a word we don't use very often, what Protestants call intentionality, to engage laypersons in understanding their role as leaders who have some responsibility. Not necessarily the authority, but responsibility. And when I say it takes significant maturity, that's part of the issue here, okay? Because the parish council is suggested in this model to have broader responsibility, but not necessarily broader authority. That authority still lives within the bishop and the priest. So that takes a certain amount of getting used to on the part of the lay persons. This does not, in our opinion, diminish the decisive importance as the priest, as the shepherd of God's people, but it brings to the fore the parish council as being stewards of the total mission of the parish. All right, so those are nice words. What really does that mean? What do we do as a parish council? This is our description. You can agree with it, you can like it or not, you can modify it. I think that the tasks of a parish council fall into three bins. First of all, oversight, and we have talked and mentioned the term bills, budgets, and buildings, and that is important, of course, that being facilities and dollars. Under oversight, there's also the question of policies, managing safety and risk. That could fall under the area of administration. The two areas that too often are not embraced or understood by parish councils are vision and planning, expressing mission and vision, synthesizing opportunities, articulating a vision, discerning priorities, and then injecting energy, causing something to happen, encouraging urgency and intelligent risk. And then related downstream from vision and planning is to enliven ministry. And that means to help define what ministries we need to be undertaking as a parish. and to which ones we maybe need to stop. Ministries that may have outlived their usefulness within the parish. And then to structure the parish so that we can provide resources and the people to fulfill and enable those ministries and to drive accountability. Now, let's just talk about this question of structure. All right, how do we link the parish council with ministry? And we use here the word governance, and that might seem like a oddly secular word for this session, but governance, first of all, is a Greek word, so that's of course always good, and it essentially means to steer the ship. So I think it goes along very nicely with the idea that we're bringing a shared co-responsibility to the parish council. Now, the parish council is made up of people who are planners. They're diverse, patient, verbal, at ease with abstract thinking. They produce paper, policies, missions, and goals. But the ministries of the parish into which the parish council needs to connect very well, those are people that are sort of focused on a particular aspect of life in the parish. They are action-oriented. They're not so much planners. They have passion, urgency, they're problem solvers, and they have a preference for action over talk. So there really is a difference, and has to be a relationship between the two, and we could go into various sorts of structures of how parish council can link itself to the ministries in a parish, but simply put, the relationship is to help to define those ministries, what is in and out of bounds for them, what new ministries we need, what ministries we no longer need, to provide resources, and to describe outcomes. Not to do the work for them, not to meddle in the job of the ministries, but to describe outcomes, provide the resources. Okay. Now, one thing I will say quickly is that many parishes will establish a council of ministries separate from a parish council. The parish council then remains sort of limited on bills, budgets, and buildings. I'll come out and say I'm not particularly nuts about that idea. I probably don't have time to go into all the details of that, but should you want to hear more on that, we can take some time when we're together. Okay, so the third tactic or tip associated with parish councils as teams and helping to improve them is the parish council covenant, a document that summarizes our commitment to one another, the behaviors, expectations, priorities that we share with one another. And hopefully it's something that is reviewed, not every month, but often, and is used. It doesn't become a parish joke or a parish council joke. It doesn't become a dusty old thing that, gee, remember the time we did that, but it's something that's used. Now, I have a couple examples of a parish council covenant. Don't have the space or the time to go through the actual wording and the details, but this is an example of a parish council covenant that we've put together that as a starting point for some parish councils, and it includes, 10 or 12 bullet points in here, modeling Orthodox Christian behavior, that we are prepared and we come to meetings, as is expected of us, that we behave with the best interests of the parish in mind. So these are fundamental sort of principles that we can all come to some agreement upon and turn into something a sort of attractive document that hopefully each year those of people who are on the parish council will come together and actually sign. So that's one example. Another example from a parish on the West Coast that I think is a fine example and in many ways better than the one on the left. And you can see it's interesting that they have sort of a similar feel in some ways, but they don't overlap too terribly much. They don't say the same things. So there's plenty of opportunities for you to express yourself and whatever is the belief and the understanding of your particular parish council. So ask for God's help, seek God's direction for our church, demonstrate leadership and commitment by example, treat each other with dignity and respect. Again, I won't go through each of the bullet points there. Now, interestingly, as I put this slide together for you, it occurred to me that on neither of these is one of what I would today say is one of the fundamental points of commitment to one another of a parish council, and that is to take the job as being something more than coming to meetings. And so often this is a downfall. We have people on the parish council who somehow have been told, well, your responsibility, you come to a meeting once a month, and oh yeah, well, you need to be prepared. No, it's a job that's more than a meeting. It doesn't show up in either one of those covenants. So I will suspect that when we come together as a group, sort of not in person, but at least live with one another, that one of the things we'll ask you to do is come together and break out into small groups and pull elements from each of these two and add to them your own thoughts to create a parish council for the group that you've been in. Okay, and so then a fourth area that I think is worth mentioning when we talk about parish councils, and any ministry team, but probably applies more to a parish council in the sense that most ministry teams don't meet as often or as formally as does a parish council. Now, just to be a bit conceptual here, so I have a little chart looking at the idea of improving meetings. A meeting has sort of two dimensions to it. One is shown horizontally here, the meeting duration, how much time it takes, whether it's 45 minutes or 4 hours, shown on the horizontal axis here. And then there is the whole question of what did we accomplish. On the vertical axis, the meeting impact. And you can draw that out however you see it for your particular parish council. But when we start talking about improving meetings, there's kind of two aspects to improving. One is to work to get the same results, but in less time. Can we do that? And there are some suggestions that can be made to deal with simply freeing up time. And that's probably what has to be done first, because you can't do a better job if you don't, unless people are willing to spend a longer time in their meeting, and most people are not. So here are a couple things, and we're not going to go into those in detail if we had more time. There's some interesting thing here. I would suggest that you in particular, you could probably Google the term, but we have a number of pieces of information on what's called a consent agenda. Tremendous way to save time within parish council meetings. But of course then there is the other aspect. Can we get better results maybe in the same time? And I'll suggest that position one, or the current way we do things, is one thing. Position two, I would say, is better, but in my opinion, reinvesting that time savings to make a greater impact for the parish is even more important. And so there are then a whole list of things that can be done. These are a little less recognizable just in terms of bullet form. And of course, it's a long list in and of itself. You're happy to answer any questions when we get together. However, I do want to spend just a little bit of time talking about item 7 here on this list, called the Parish Council Calendar. And it's simply what it would sound to be. It is not the parish calendar necessarily, but the Parish Council Calendar. And it starts from the point that, look, we don't need to talk about everything every month at every meeting. Okay? We can assign particular topics to particular months, and if we plan that out ahead of time, we can even do it on a cyclical basis. We know that in July every year we're going to do a deep dive about this particular topic. We're going to focus a healthy portion of the meeting on that. So one way you might go about it is to simply outline a calendar horizontally, January through December, putting on their key events within the parish. And of course, in putting together and strengthening boards and governance bodies within the Orthodox Church is a little tougher than in many other Christian bodies. We have a lot more liturgically going on, particularly in seasonal events and seasonal times, than others, but nonetheless, and so those need to be sort of overlaid in your thought process as well. But here I put down non-liturgical events that maybe the fiscal year begins in January, maybe it doesn't, have a ministry fair maybe in September, church school probably starts in September, maybe you have a pledge drive in October and the annual meeting and election of officers, maybe that happens in November. It depends, it will vary in various parishes, okay? Then once you have that laid out, then you can start thinking in terms of vertically here, a set of rows, okay? And putting down some things that deal with planning and vision, ministry and development, stewardship and budgeting and financial things, parish council development, and managing risk. These are the areas that I came up with for you. But then you can see that you can put various events into the calendar at various times. All right? So probably in January or February, or maybe in this case, I guess in March, you might have a parish council planning retreat. And that is also one of the key topics we often suggest for improving parish councils. Review your mission and your vision, etc. And that can beget various other things, certain goals that maybe you'll want to always every year in June review those goals. In October, maybe you need to prepare for the annual meeting. And you know that you need to set aside agenda time for that in that particular month. So then we can move on down through the list here of ministry development. Maybe we choose to review a particular ministry in the month of February or March or April. Select from the various ministries we have in the parish to do a deep dive on one of them. So we're not just simply asking for reports from people, but we engage with that and we find out what their needs are, how we might be able to help with better resources or clearing roadblocks in some ways. And so you can go through this entire chart. I won't look at every one of the items that's on here. At various times, you can review your budget, and perhaps this shows here also in March, plan a parish update. But the point being, you don't necessarily have to do that every month. You can clean up some time and save it for other items. Maybe some months that makes for a shorter meeting for you. And so you then can fill out the calendar even then with some leadership topics. Okay, we see here under Parish Council Development that maybe there is a particular leadership topic and maybe you have a leadership subcommittee. Maybe you have someone involved that is particularly interested in that brings a short presentation or a discussion to your meeting, and you carve out some time for maybe some longer term or more in-depth thinking. All right, so that's the Parish Council calendar. And so those are 3 or 4 things. We've talked about deciding to improve. We've talked about the role of the Parish Council. We've talked about the calendar. We've talked about the covenant. Those are some relatively specific things. And those are 4 of the 10 and that we have tried to bring to you. And so hopefully we can end right there, I believe. We've kept this to, I think, a reasonable time frame. Happy to discuss any of these other items that were not in bold or anything else that you might have about teams and teamworks. I mean, we cover here group dynamics. That's an incredibly important topic. I think on our agenda there are some speakers who will cover some aspects of that. So that's one of the reasons why I chose not to deal with that. So thank you very much. We've tried to show a little bit of depth in a few areas rather than just skimming across all of them. Again, I'm Joe Kormos, looking forward to being with you as part of the overall session. Thank you very much.